everyone, welcome back to the next episode of Why We Do It, the stories behind the stories in amateur sports. And our Pentland Tri Club guest this week is special for a few reasons. Firstly, Claire Barton. She helps make up our first couples appearance in the in the podcast series. Here she is on the screen with Warren, who was our very first guest on this. That's over a year ago, so we're doing okay so far. And apart from that, more importantly, we've talked to quite a few people on this series so far, and most of them have got pretty long and distinguished track records in triathlon. But relative newcomers and their stories are also really important for how we're trying to portray the learning and the lessons that can be passed on. And because there's quite a lot to learn as you get into this sport. So it's easy to forget some of those early experiences if you've been doing it for a number of years. And in your case, you are reasonably new to the whole thing, certainly not lacking in ambition. And on top of that, you have a pretty distinguished list of personal kind of challenges that you're overcoming. We might call it the kind of fourth discipline. And we'll talk about some of those later on in the whole thing. So Claire, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You ready for this?
Good. I think so. I hope so.
Good. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We don't always start at the beginning, but I think in this case, I'm quite keen to start at the beginning. Thanks again for all the notes. It's good of you to give me a few steering points to work to. And we're going to go back to the beginning of growing up in South Africa and sport in South Africa. And I'm quite interested in the whole sport in South Africa dynamic, particularly for a girl growing up in South Africa, having been through that experience myself, clearly as a boy, kind of. And you wrote something in the very beginning of your notes to me. It's almost the first thing you say, sporting background, and then it says, too short and asthmatic to be in the A team.
Yes. Yes.
Why did you write that?
Well, South Africa is sort of it is sort of I don't want to say it's a sporty nation, but sport is very important, to people in schools. If I think we had a massive, sorry, this was a government school, so it's not like it was a private school. So we had a massive swimming pool. We had 3 or 4 tennis courts. You had netball courts. You had 2 rugby fields. Everyone was expected to do sport. So as someone with creaky, groany lungs, trying to do sport, whether it's primary school, high school, sorry, those cities, it was more high school, but you're expected to do sport, and if you didn't, you kind of were not nobody, but it was kind of frowned upon, or what's wrong with you, So it was important. And as I say, like for girls, it was different to the boys because our focus obviously wasn't rugby, but it was netball. So netball was a big thing. And of course, I'm 5'4", and I had a growth spurt, believe it or not. Probably by the time I was about 15, I got to this enormous height of 5'4". So as a netball player, when primary school, things like that, what I had was speed. And an asthma inhaler tucked in my knickers on the side. So, squish, squish, and then off you run and catch the ball kind of thing. You were expected to do, netball was a big thing for girls, as was hockey.
So there's something in the statement that I quoted you on that you wrote there that's just oozed South Africa school sports to me. You said, you've just mentioned the A team.
Yeah.
That's not really something that gets talked about very much, I think, in British schools. I mean, there is A teams and B teams, but I think what's lost in there is just the fact you mentioned it as the opening line. It was a thing. It was a big thing, and this the psychology of how you performed as a kid in sport, and whether you were in A, B, C, or D team, because there was plenty of those teams. That was a pretty big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, as a girl, like the A-team rugby boys dated A-team netball girls, so it was very much a sort of hierarchy in a way. So because you were seen as sort of elite, or you were seen as being better, and then if you made captain, it was like, wow,
And so I suppose, just on a massive pedestal.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it still defines you. That when you talk about your childhood sport, that's the first thing you think of. I wasn't in an A-team, but I did all these other things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it and I don't know if it's same for you guys,
Yeah, it was
in
exactly the
grandson.
same.
It
But we
it
were boys, so
doesn't
we had.
change.
I don't know if that was more pressure or less pressure. So what was it like? You've talked about hockey and netball, but it's sounding like it was similar.
Yes, yeah, and in a way, because I think as a girl, and I could be getting it very wrong here, but I think as a girl, you're allowed to also be intelligent at school. Whereas I think for boys,
It didn't matter at all.
it
If you could
didn't
kick a
matter.
ball and
So
run fast and hand off
yeah,
someone, yeah.
so I think girls, you also had that slight get out of jail free card in a way, whereas boys were defined by, are you in the A team, rugby team, or perhaps the B team if you're a little bit, short or crap or
So
underweight.
it sets the scene for these stories, because you were in swimming, and you talk about swimming when you were at school, and this is your
Yep.
happy place.
Yep.
Tell
Oh
us a bit
yeah.
more about that.
So I learned to swim when I was about 6 years old. My stepmom was a sort of provincial swimmer.
So more
So
family pressure and just
well,
expectation. Yeah.
yeah, and the thing was like we did drills as kids, like because we had. I'll say this as it's a sort of first world problem, but we had a swimming pool in our garden. If where we didn't have one, my parents built one. It's a South African thing, so we're very fortunate. But it did mean that you were swimming summer, winter, whatever. My parents put solar panels on, and it wasn't to heat the hot water as you would think. No, it was to heat the pool so that we could do training year round, sort of thing. So
And
it
not
was,
forgetting that with all those pools and houses, it was pretty kind of important that we knew how to swim as kids from a
yeah,
safety perspective.
so many kids, you always heard horror stories of people drowning or kids being sort of severely sort of affected sort of physically or mentally because they'd been submerged in water for however long and had to be resuscitated and all sorts of, there were all those horror stories. So yeah, I
But
mean
on the other side, a lot of us are swimming really, really early
oh
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
you were swimming really young. I mean my baby brother is my half brother. He was swimming before he could walk. So he could swim the length of the pool, but you had to put him in because he couldn't walk yet. So it's just different.
So swimming is a pretty natural thing. It is like walking and running for folks who are lucky enough to have those
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah,
access to safe environments, I guess, for swimming.
yeah.
Not so much as not so safe ones. And there were fences around pools and things like that
Oh
in many
yeah,
people's gardens. So it was a thing. Probably less so then than it is now.
yeah,
But definitely that is something. You also put something else on here which surprised me about your school growing up, because I didn't know this at all. You said you played cricket for fun. Now,
yeah,
I honestly don't remember girls in South Africa in the 80s and 90s playing cricket. And it's amazing that you did. And obviously now it's a much more common thing. But
yeah.
what was that like?
It was great. It was towards the end of high school, and being left-handed, it was great as well because everyone expects a right-handed batsman. So left-handed was great. It was a bit like tennis as well. Not everyone's expecting it. So that was like my superpower in a way because until people learned, and then it was like, oh great. So it wasn't for a very long time, but it was nice to have that experience and be able to
Yeah,
do it.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
But again,
And
it
to
was
have the environment set up in that kind of a society that it actually was
yeah.
even a thing.
But it was just within the school. So at that time, it wasn't set up with other schools to do
Not
matches
enough.
or things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It was more sort of like the inter-house, within the school, you had your houses and stuff like that. So it was more that sort of thing that they had set up. But no, it was great. It had a progressive
And
PE
you're also
teacher.
into athletics. And you got some interesting stories from
Well,
growing up and becoming a young woman in athletics.
well, yeah. So athletics, I accidentally came into athletics, into running.
I need to say, we've got a live audience. And we have
Yeah.
a youngster in the live audience. So
So let's put it this way. So we had it was a school gala, athletics meet, whatever else, and they didn't have enough girls my age who'd signed up to do it in our house. So I was volunteered to run the 800 and 1500, and the girls had come in. So and I didn't have a sports bra. And back then, like for women, our sports clothing and things, the technology is amazing now. Things have changed and it's wonderful. Back then, not so much. So I bounced my way around the 1500 meters, came second. So that meant I was then on the school team because that's how you got into the school team. So that was great. And I started training at the school team, and I ran at Rao Stadium, at the Afrikaans University, at a big
RAU.
yes, sorry, yeah, RAU,
How do you say that?
Rand Afrikaans University,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
right, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that was great. Barefoot like Zolbud because I didn't like wearing the spikes. So of course,
Which again was another thing. Very few of us wore shoes in
yeah,
running. The Zola Bud thing was a big story, wasn't it, in the world?
yeah,
But it was
but
pretty
it was
normal for
just
us.
you know, it was great. I just taped my feet and off you go.
Tape your feet. That's
I know, but then halfway through, I didn't do it right. So halfway through, it started unraveling. So I just had to stop and then run to catch up. But I then stopped running because boys and smoking became more interesting, and there were much better after-school activities. Smoking behind,
which is
the
an interesting
toilet.
link to the third section when we start talking about health again.
Yeah,
But yeah, good, good.
misspent youth and all
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was about to say it's a shame that cricket isn't a discipline in triathlon. That would have been quite handy given the
Yeah,
background there. Yeah,
that'd be good.
but you also did some cycling, but not proper cycling.
No, no, and again, no, it definitely wasn't proper cycling.
There's laughter in the audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is an intro to the story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not proper cycling.
I didn't just say that on the top of my head. Yeah.
You didn't. No offense. So it was. I used to deliver newspapers, and like Sundays were held because the Sunday Times or whatever, I can't remember, it might have been the Sunday Times, but it weighed like, because you had all the supplements and everything else, and I'd take like, it was probably like my body weight in papers, front and back and the carrier, and off I'd go, and I had a 12-speed Peugeot, and it was wide.
12 speed. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
In that day and age, that's amazing.
I was going to say we were
That
well
is more
posh.
proper cycling than I thought, particularly with all that weight. It's serious training.
I know, to be honest. And Johannesburg is quite hilly, yeah. But it wasn't really, cycling wasn't really something that any of my female friends were doing. None of my male friends were doing it. It wasn't really something that I thought I would do as a sport, whatever. It was a way of getting around and getting places and seeing friends or whatever else, before I got my car. So yeah, that was kind of cycling. Nothing amazing, but I did love my bike.
Okay, so you've got a pretty good background there with you got swimming from a young age, you got cycling
Yeah,
with newspapers and a lot of weight and a bit of 12-speed bike. You got a fair bit of running, competitive running, netball, cricket,
yeah,
bit of agility and kind of all-round kind of sporting kind of experiences, which actually wasn't uncommon growing up in South Africa. We were all very lucky to have that, I think. And then so this, you haven't put any notes in here about in between school and starting triathlon in 2017, 18. Is there anything sport-wise in there? Obviously, you become a mum, you get married, you
yeah.
move to the UK. Is there anything going on briefly in that zone?
We did rock. When we moved up to Scotland, we were doing quite a bit of rock climbing.
Yeah,
So
that
that
seems
was
to be a
good.
theme on this
So
series as well.
that was really good, and I'd like to get back to that. It was just time consuming, like with anything at the time. So I love climbing, which is really good. And there wasn't really much at that. I started running with Jane, and not that anyone can see her, but I'm gesturing to Jane over
She
there.
dies out of the
And,
shot here.
yeah, and that was, and I think that was sort of pre-COVID and stuff, and I was hoping to build up to, I don't know, like a 10K or something like that. Just it was a way of getting out and doing some sort of sport. And then started cycling to work. Once we were up here in Scotland, and then tour the borders happened from that, and then things like that.
So I don't actually know the answer, but I think I know the answer. But why triathlon? What gets you into triathlon apart from someone who might be sitting nearby?
What, you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we
I
might have
figured-
to just quickly kind of put that back up for a second. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think Warren should thank me for getting into triathlon. Actually, or I could say I've only got myself to blame, because I don't want to say I still am, but I was the better swimmer.
You still are.
Yeah, okay. I am the better swimmer, but I was swimming to try and help my back, and I'll come to that, but it was a way of trying to sort of ease my back, and it was being in the water, and it's a happy place and stuff. And then I think Warren kind of, oh, well, he's running and cycling, and so he started doing the triathlon. And then I was like, well, I'm cycling, I'm running, I swim. I may as well I won't train unless I've got an event. So yeah, let's just throw it all together and do it. And also it's great for holidays as well.
But you'd also been doing briefly, you've been doing the tour of borders. You said several times.
Yeah,
Is that really several times?
I've done several times. So I didn't get to do it this year because I had a migraine, but I've done it.
I heard it wasn't that good this year. Things happened.
Yeah, it was not a good event this year. I think I've done it 4 or 5 times. Yeah, something like, yeah.
And the Edinburgh 10K and the Edinburgh Half Marathon, the Glasgow Half Marathon, the Malaga Half Marathon. you're knocking them out here in the late teens and early 2020s.
Yeah, yeah. It was just, I
Getting
think
on.
life came back because the kids were older.
Yeah.
And suddenly it was like, I mean, I adore our kids, but it was so nice to have life
Bit of
back
space. Yeah,
and
yeah,
to be able
yeah.
to just do what I wanted when I wanted and be selfish,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. So then triathlon comes along. You did a relay initially, again the run at Aberfeldy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your first one. So we've got three or four here. Let's
Oh
throw this
yeah,
up on
that's
the
my
screen.
That's the Dame Edna look.
Dame Edna,
Yeah,
look. So
yeah.
this is your first sprint try, first putting it all together in a triathlon
Yeah,
in 2024.
that was a New Year's Day triathlon
Yeah,
in 2024. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was the
How did
first
that go?
one.
Looking good in the picture.
So, well, there was a photo we took at the tri club. Everyone was sitting on the stairs. I don't know. I think your brother Rob might have taken all Rob was in the photo. I can't remember who took it. And we were all sitting there, and I looked unwell because I felt unwell. I couldn't eat. I could
Just nerves.
I felt sick to my stomach. But the moment I got into the water, the moment I jumped into the water, like that was fine. Then I was happy. Then I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And it was nice because people were really nice.
It's a fun event to do. I think it's a great one
Yeah.
at first.
It was cold.
It doesn't help that it's the 1st of January in
It was
Scotland,
cold.
but it's a great event
yeah.
otherwise. Yeah, yeah.
No,
yeah.
no. It was really good. So everyone was.
And so if you can cope with that, you can cope with anything after that, just in terms of weather. Yeah.
Well, you say that. You say that.
And tumble turns under the lanes, but that's another thing that they do at that event. So then you progress. Not that long afterwards, in March, you are in St Andrews.
Yeah, so St Andrews was great. I really enjoyed it. It was on Mother's Day, and that was my one and only, and probably the only time in my life I'm ever going to podium. So I was second in my age group. So yeah, it's probably because all the other mums were cooking roast dinners for families. So
Hey, it's the way to do it sometimes. Yeah,
it's
pick a good
just,
day.
so I'm just rolling with it. But that was great. The only problem with that one, the weather was awful, and I ended up with so we did that, and then I ended up with a really bad chest infection because
So the weather was worse in March, which I guess is still kind
yeah,
of
it was
not quite spring.
yeah,
trying hard.
it wasn't great because I remember I was sitting in the
And
car.
worse than New Year's Day. Well, there was a sunny picture there, the one before.
Yeah, I think on New Year's Day it was crisp,
Mm-hmm.
but this was sort of
Miserable.
yeah, it was just a bit miserable. I think it was sort of cleared up a little bit in time for the bike, but it was windy, and then on the run, and you're wet, and it was just it was nice. I'd do it again.
And in those first two, I mean, what were the kind of biggest things you learned? Because part of talking to someone like you is it's early, you're learning like a sponge. What are, in those first two sprint tries? What were the things you learned the most? Biggest lessons you took away from it?
Preparation.
Okay,
Like
for
have
example.
so I'm a planner, as you know. I'm a count man. So it plays to what I like. So it was, and actually Warren helps us a lot with this. It's like mentally picture what you're going to do and when. So go through it in your head and things like that. So being a prepper, that helped. And that I found was probably the biggest thing is just, check your bike, check your shoes, where are your socks, how are you going to want to put them on, things like that. So I found that that helped, and that then doing those two also, and it kind of helped me for the later races or for
And you had an attention to detail coach helping you with all the things you needed to plan for.
yeah.
And what did it all work, or was there any calamities? Because the calamities are the best bits, the things that don't work.
Unfortunately no calamities because I plan A to Z. So there's always contingencies for everything. So fortunately not, but one of my biggest fears, whether it's Tour of the Borders or like triathlon, is I'm worried about mechanicals on my bike. I mean, I live with a bike mechanic, so I just hand it over and say, sort my bike, which is nice. But it's always that's my worry because there's very little you can do, all this prep and everything else.
Particularly in a sprint, I mean, it's all over if you lose.
Yeah.
No.
So
It depends what you're there to do, of course. If you're there to as a newcomer and you're just experiencing it, it's not that perhaps. But I think psychologically, you want it all to go well, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And it's that thought of being stranded on the side of the road and the shame of the sweeper bus.
Right. Okay. So serious mechanical, not just a quick.
No.
puncture
I'm
or
not
anything.
talking about it's something that is going to like absolutely
Chain coming off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Put it back on. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you did Kelso.
Yes.
Anything from Kelso? That was a couple
Kelso,
months later. So you got the 3 sprints in the first year.
yeah. So Kelso was. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do Kelso because we'd been
I don't know the picture. I'll just
supporting.
pop this down for a second.
Yeah. So Kelso, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it because I'd sprained my ankle coming down the mountain supporting at Keltman, and it was a very bad sprain. So
We're almost segueing into the kind of big phase coming up in the story. Yeah.
yeah, so I wasn't sure if I just, it was a really bad sprain, and then I insisted on walking on it, and I shouldn't have, and we were walking with the medics, so I should have probably said to them, could you take a look at this? So that meant I wasn't running for a while, but it was all right. I got there, took it easy, and eased up on the training a bit, so I was able to do it. So that was
Okay.
that was good.
So you get 3 decent
Yeah.
sprints in, and you go, that's not enough. We're gonna have to up the game here.
Well,
So next thing you're doing a half Ironman.
yeah. So yeah, that was Outlaw.
This is in May in 2025.
Yeah, it was May this year.
May
yeah,
this year.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
is Outlaw half or Outlaw 70.3.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really, really nice event. I'll go back.
Looks
and do
warm.
It was warm. But I tend to find most things above 12 degrees warm.
And you look like you were
Oh, yes.
having a good time, which
Well, yeah, I tend to
obviously not
chat my
trying
way
hard
around.
enough.
I tend to chat my way around these things. So yeah, Warren told me to actually stop chatting and run, because I found this woman who was, I thought she was doing the same pace as me, but she wasn't. So we ended up chatting, and I found that she's a doctor, and she was like 30 years old, and I found out the hospital she worked and all the rest of it. And then I was like, oh, I'm almost finished.
Newcomers. Yeah.
I know.
It's then I got the brief that it's a race. Yeah.
Well, I knew it was within my target time, so I was I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be last. So let's enjoy it,
Well, I'm sorry, Myra's here. Myra was on a previous episode. I'm reminded of running with Myra and Aaron, just chatting away. That was me that time. So you did the Outlaw. I mean, and how did you get on overall? What was the final kind of outcome of it all? We talked about the weather and kind of
it was great. It was fantastic.
Were you nervous about that? I mean, it's a big jump from
I
sprint
felt
to...
sick, but I always feel sick before any
You
event.
just skipped the Olympic distance straight into...
Well, I'd signed up to do the Belty last year. Is it the Belty or the Belty? I can't remember. But that was supposed to be an Olympic. But I was unwell, so I couldn't do it. This is like a theme. I sign up races, I train for them, and then get
So everything goes...
So yeah, resilience is key.
I'm a little bit disappointed. That's 4 races and you haven't had some kind of major kit calamity or
no.
Your planning's kind of holding up.
Yeah. No, Outlaw, absolutely textbook. Like my transitions are faster than I, than tried predicted or whatever else. In out, boom, done, go. And yeah, it was great.
So that was too easy. And then you just fell over one evening and landed on your laptop. And by the time you stood up, you'd accidentally entered an Ironman.
Well, it kind of, okay. So for those that I haven't bored the story already, I was really keen to do, and Ali, forgive me because I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly, but there's this Ironman at 70.3 that's been done for a few years, and in Tours in the Loire Valley in France. And I thought it looked amazing, and it just looks like a beautiful place to visit, and we like that region of France. So I thought, great, does Warren want to do it as a warm-up for his, full next year, 2026? He's happy to do it as a warm-up. I'll do it as my big race. And I had the countdown on for when entries opened. Entries open, it was just after Warren did Keltman, and I was in the car park at the bottom of Benet. Entries open. I looked, I was like, this is really expensive. I wanted to cry, but I was like, what the heck? Let's just do it. So signed myself up, signed Warren up. And then that evening we were sitting in the cottage in Shieldaig, and Warren was trying to find the race route, the route, the bike and everything. And he's like, what did you enter? And I was like, what do you mean? Is that because I can't find it? It says date to be confirmed. I was like, and I thought I'd been scammed. I thought some Nigerian prince had sort of...
So the half Ironman that you're entering is date to be confirmed.
Yes.
You've entered.
But I've entered. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just paid over like a king's ransom for the 2 of us. I've entered something. What have I done? So then Warren said, there's a full Ironman in Tours. And I was like, they know don't do a full Ironman at all. They've never done a full Ironman. No, this is the first time they're doing a full Ironman in
And it's also going to be the first time you're doing a full Ironman.
Yes, yes. So the crazy bit is that I had a glass of wine, while we were finding this out, and I was like, do you know what? I'll cancel it, because it was in the first that day. So fired off a ticket to tech support. This is what happened. I thought, I can't be the only idiot that's done this. And then I was like, wait, I could do a full Ironman. Done half. I've not run a marathon yet. Yeah, let's just do it. In for a penny. Let's do it.
Not lacking ambition. I think this is a really good point where we go into, because I think for most people, if they don't know you and they're hearing a story, someone's come from a background in sport as a kid, they've done 3 sprints without too much challenge, they've done a half Ironman without too much challenge. Oh, okay, Ironman, natural progression.
Yeah.
But you've got the 4th discipline, your personal 4th discipline.
Yes.
And it's a page and a half in your notes.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to shred this afterwards, because if your insurance company sees this, they might not be that keen on you doing an Ironman. So it starts health and other crap as the heading you put in here.
Yeah.
So give us the headline on this, and I'll see if I can pick some bits out, because there's quite a bit of stuff here. And it goes back to your childhood, which we skimmed over that bit.
So I was born with severe asthma. And I was blue lighted twice before, I think by the time I was 18 months, and in oxygen tents and stuff like that. And my asthma wasn't very well controlled, probably until I reached about, I think I was in my about 27, 28. So it's always been, it's not been managed. So I've had spontaneous pneumothorax, which is a collapsed lung. I've had a blood clot in one of my lungs. I've had asthma attacks. I've had pneumonia. I've had
You've had swine flu.
I've had swine flu. Yeah, Warren also got. We got swine flu.
I actually looked up how many people get swine flu, because it just feels like you're so unlucky.
Yeah, my immune system. If there's a virus out
20% of the population.
Yeah.
In the 2009.
Yeah.
There's a fact for everyone.
It was bad.
Got swine flu.
It was bad.
Not as bad as COVID in terms of numbers of people, but you guys still checked in on it. You weren't giving us out.
We went, and I know where I caught it. Warren and I went. It was a rare date night, and we went to the cinema. I caught it, and then Warren got it like a couple of days later, I think.
And then COVID comes along, just as you're dealing with everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually highlighted this bit. This is so clear. Apart from the being in an A team, or not, defining who you are as a person now from whether you were in the A team at school, and I do know that because I know what team I was in and wasn't A team either. But the next most clear thing is this sentence here where it said, "I got COVID in April 2020, required hospitalization, but refused to go." Talk us through that. What is going on there?
So I think I was really, really, really unwell. And Warren said to me subsequently, he was like, because Warren moved into one of the other bedrooms, and he said, like, he came to the bedroom each morning and he didn't know if he'd find me alive because my breathing was that bad. And the thing at that time, all anyone was hearing on the news or the radio, whatever else, all we were seeing are people in hospital dying. So my brain was, if I go to hospital, I'm going to get worse. At home, I know what I'm dealing with. I know the quantity, I've got a controlled environment. And hospital,
no intensive cares in your house.
No. I mean, no Warren,
No Warren.
But,
no pressure.
But keep this idiot alive. But I think at the time it was just this fear of going into hospital when they were saying, like X number of beds in this ward, people died, and it just felt a bit like,
and it hits you hard, and long COVID has been the thing.
Yeah, long COVID is the thing that keeps giving. So I caught COVID again recently off the plague plane for a trip from Mallorca, and
those trips to Mallorca, I got watch those.
I know, right? Because I'm not flying out
tricky.
there in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And but again, long COVID sort of nonsense, because that was COVID caught, and then long COVID has come back again. So I'm having to try and get over the fatigue and all those other lovely things at the moment. My voice has only returned in the last 3 days, I'd say, maybe. Yeah.
But it's not just chests and breathing and things like that,
No.
because in 2016,
Oh
and
yeah.
this is one of the stories I first kind of got to know you about. I don't know why. I just remember this being almost the first thing I ever heard about you. Um, you decided to go on a wee skiing trip in February
Yes. Yep.
2016,
Family skiing
and that
trip.
went quite well.
Yeah, it went brilliantly. First day of the holiday, it was Warren, Josh, Abby, and me on a holiday. The kids would be in the ski club in the morning. Warren and I'd been out, and then we were going to do one run before lunch with the kids because they were enthusiastic. So off we went, and yeah, I had a skiing accident. It was nothing spectacular. There was no big powder ball or anything
You
like
hadn't
that.
done a triple flip before this.
No, unfortunately not. It was quite unremarkable, but the damage was remarkable. So yeah, that was. They were very, very nice, good-looking young men that got me off the mountain. I do remember that. On the back of a sled. But yeah,
Despite a ripped ACL, a shattered tibial spine in your left leg, your right leg had a stable fracture, so
yeah,
both legs are broken.
yeah.
You remember the guys getting off the slip.
Yeah, because you had to concentrate on something other than the pain and the embarrassment as well. But yeah, that was so I had surgery that day. I think it was 4 or 5 hours for them to rebuild the tibial spine and reattach the ACL, and then I was on crutches for I don't know how long, and then I had physio for about a year or so, and then I had my physio was great, like the Royal Infirmary, they were absolutely fantastic when I got back, and then I had a second trip to theatre because there was a lot of scar tissue and whatnot. So to get the joint moving properly, there was only so much we could do with physio. So they removed that, and yeah, I've got pretty much full range of motion. So I mean, I can
Which
run
is
with
incredible.
paddle.
It's
Yeah,
amazing to come back from that
yeah,
much and still be able to run even.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I'm really really grateful. I always joke that it was designed by an Italian that rebuilt my knee. I was a bit worried, thinking would it fall to pieces like an Alfa Romeo, but obviously crafted beautiful.
and I am summarizing some of this, but back problems. I think this is the final heading here.
Oh yeah. So some disc degeneration, and in typical fashion, I ignored it. And it was a girls' trip. These girls' trips are terrible. You'd think we're like crazy people, but we're in Rome and we were flying back that day, and I went to the kitchen and I just lifted the kettle to put the kettle on that morning, and my back just seized up. So my amazing friends got me on the plane, got me home, and then that was months and months, probably years, I'd say, of trying to get that sorted. So that was lots of physio, lots of different. They tried sort of antidepressants, anti-epileptics. I was on the floor out of my nut on tramadol or cocodamol, whatever else. So none of that was working really. And then I had um, 2 trips into theatre. They tried it two separate different times, but where they sort of stick these horrifically long needles into your back, and then they basically fry the nerves at the different joints. And then it's quite painful. Well, it's very painful because you're awake for it. And then over a period of time, the nerves die, so it allows all those pain signals go away, and then the nerves do regrow. So it
So
kind
I'm
of
looking
resets.
at the dates. So 2016 was the skiing
Oh
accident.
yeah,
This problem started in 2016.
yeah.
It seems
Probably
very
later in the
logical
year.
to go, okay, let's run the Edinburgh 10K in 2017.
Was yeah, it must have been 2017 was the 10K, because well, I kept saying to my physio I needed something to aim for. I wanted something to, yeah, I needed something, and I kept saying to her, I drove her nuts because I went on a rock climb. She's like, "You're still in a brace. You can't put weight there." Yeah, but when can I? When will I be able to? When will it be fixed? And I think it's like, even with the Ironman next year, I know it's a big stretch, but it's like I need that. I need something to motivate me or to get me there. So
So I guess this is the final kind of thing. Is so despite all of that,
yeah,
you're still motivated, because many people would be, you know what, the last thing I want to be doing is trying to train for even a sprint triathlon, never mind a half Ironman this year and a full one next year. But you, despite all this, and you're still taking these knocks with every time there's another kind of outbreak of, I think there's been COVID probably doing the rounds recently. You just not giving up.
No, and part of it is also, you're not going to get stronger. And I worry about my lungs because at some point, something somewhere is brewing in the Amazon or something, and it's going to make its way on a butterfly's wing and knock me out, because I just attract viruses. And the thing is, I want to know in my mind that I have done everything I can to make my lungs and my body as strong as I can. So if it means, yes, I sign up for events and then I can't do it because I'm sick or I'm recovering, fine. But I know I've trained for it and I know my body's in the best place it can be when I get knocked down, and then I just rebuild from there. So it's a higher pace I'm coming back from each time rather than doing nothing. And then I've only got myself to blame, really.
Okay. There was a sentence here, short sentence that I highlighted. I was just curious to hear your thoughts on why you wrote down, "My worst fear is failure."
Oh, yes. Yes.
What does that mean? I mean, just
it,
we're
it,
talking about sport here, but
yeah,
is it linked? Where does it come from? What's that about?
I think it's like I say to Barton, oh, like the Ironman next year with our training and stuff. Oh, the times look terrible. And he's like, yeah, but you're just doing it to finish. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be lost because that's in my brain, that's failing. And, and it's like, I see, it's going to sound a bit silly and it is in my head, but like, if failing is not being able to breathe, so because it's all tied to like all these asthma attacks and everything else. So you've got to keep doing it. You got to keep pushing, and you can't be at the back. You can't be, I know someone's gonna be lost, but in my head, either to stop doing it or to stop trying and to stop trying my best, that is failure. And I think that stems from that, if I stop breathing now because it's too hard, or it sounds really silly, but it's just something in my head that I try and
So
keep.
stopping training, even that's for you, that's failing.
Yes. And at the moment, I know I'm not well. And on Saturday, I did something really stupid and set myself back. And Warren was rightly, we had a few words. Rightly so, because I got on my turbo trainer. I was going to do like a zone 1, zone 2 heart rate, kind of very easy, nice, steady ride. And this man cycled past me on Ruby. And
For a second, I was going, "What? You mean on the turbo
on the
trainer,
turbo, I
a
was on the turbo.
virtual person,
No, it was a real person
but
because I could
a
see.
virtual real person?"
Yes, a virtual real person. And he went past me. But first he drafted me. And I was like, no, that's not right. And then he overtook
I
me.
have to
And
cut the place.
I was like, no, that's not right. So then I pushed harder than I should have done. And then I knew I was going to get a right telling off from
Remember when
Warren.
I said required hospitalization but refused to go is the most clear thing I heard? Actually, it's not now. Getting into a fight with someone on a virtual
Well,
cycling
he
turbo
was
trainer.
he was just, he just irritated me. But the downside is like, sometimes I get caught up in it, and because I'm having fun, or because I want to have fun and I want to seize those moments when I can have fun and when my body's working properly, I sometimes overcook it, which is why I'll perhaps not go running with my friends when I want to, because I'm regimented. I want to follow a training plan because I know it's working for me and it keeps me healthy and it keeps me not overdoing it. So when I go off piste, that's like with that man chasing that man down, I wasn't following. So like this is a workout.
There was quite I think a poignant sentence towards the end here, which I highlighted in a different color because I thought, wow, that kind of seems to sum up a lot of the other things you've described already and that you wrote in the notes here. You said it's really to prove to myself that I can and need to keep going.
Yes.
That seemed to stand out a little bit more from all the other motivations.
Yeah.
Did I misread that, or is there something there?
No, it is. It's, and again it goes back to that. I don't. It goes back to that thing where it's like, yeah, you have to keep. You have to keep it going. You have to keep it. And
So I know from childhood in South Africa, with all the sport where we started
yeah,
talking here, personally, I have to prove something myself,
yeah.
I sometimes take a step back and go, am I proving this just to myself, or am I proving this to someone or something else?
Well, it's kind of a mixture because I have to prove it to myself that I'm not just a body with crappy lungs and that gets sick at the drop of a hat if a virus waltzes past in the vicinity. So there's that side of it. The other thing is like I want my daughter, especially not my son, but especially my daughter, to feel empowered as a woman to do, to that she can do it as well. She, you don't have to, we're both bigger busted women. You shouldn't feel self-conscious. Put on a swimsuit, go for a swim. You want to go for a run, strap those boulders down, go for a run. Like just do it, because you're failing if you don't try.
And if you're letting the fear
Yeah,
of what other people might
exactly.
think.
It's like, just have a go, because if you don't have a go, you'll never know. And perhaps it's also, in South Africa, going back to that, it's the outfits you had to wear for PE. Oh my lord, it was just terrible, and you'd all be getting changed in these communal change rooms, and it was just, so you just have this sort of, just get on and do it, and
again, the whole thing really kind of kits it out for the boys and for the men, but not so much for
yeah,
women.
totally.
Same kit sometimes as the boys would have to have, or the men if you're in adult sports. So let's look ahead. We need to bring it to a bit of a wrap up, but let's look ahead. When's the date of the Ironman?
Is it the 14th of June? If that's
14th of June.
It's about.
And you started training.
Well, training's just continuous.
You're in base phase of building phase.
So well, I'm at the moment I'm just trying to get well, because there's the Malaga half in December, and then I did consider perhaps doing the John Muir Ultra with Rona in March, but I don't think it's gonna work really for me. But I did consider that, because I thought mentally, I was like, oh, that would prepare me for what's to come for the Ironman, having not never run a marathon before. But then I thought, actually, no, partly it's training, and the other thing is, I'd rather surprise my brain on the day. I don't want that fear ahead of time, thinking, oh, the run's going to be this and it's going to be that.
When you get to that 3/4 through, there's a few people here who've done the full Ironman. When you get to that stage of 3/4 through, and you're thinking, I've never ever been in this kind of world before, and how the heck am I going to take another step?
Well, yeah.
You're going to take that on fresh.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because the pressure of the event will just force you to it, and that fear of failure thing.
And the other thing is, I'm like the ultimate supporter. So I've been quite a few of Warren's big races and stuff like that, and towards the end, which is the bit of the field I'll be in, it's just a sea of human suffering, and it's really inspirational. I know you're laughing, but it is.
When you're on the sidelines, not necessarily in that field of suffering.
And you're watching these people, and they just keep going, and it's so I know that, and so you just see it, and it's incredible, especially towards the back end of the pack, because people have been out there for ages, so long, and they're still going, and it's just phenomenal. So I've got to keep that that's what I'm going to keep in my head, that somebody else is going to be watching me thinking, oh, she's freaking awesome, oh, look at her go. So that's what I'm going to have to keep in my head. And chat to people, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to keep that smiley face going all the way around. And so we'll be tracking you carefully. Let's get the smiley face back.
Lord.
We'll be tracking you carefully on the day. We'll be monitoring and listening kind of through the club network as to how your training's going over the next kind of 8 to 9 months. But oh my goodness.
I know. Well, the great thing is that Warren's under strict instructions, because he's going to do it. So he'll finish he'll be finishing, but it's before I get to start the marathon, I think, or something like that, or he'll be almost finished. It's something ridiculous. So he's under strict instructions that it doesn't matter how tired he is, he's going to have to be there cheering me on. So I don't know who's got the harder job on the day.
What happens if you beat him? That'd be something. You'll be waiting for him.
Yeah.
That'll be a story.
That would be headline.
Feed him pizza beforehand. That's my top tip.
I'm trying. I'm doing all the baking I can. It's not working. He refuses it.
Claire, it's been wonderful having you on, and really interesting to hear so much more about the kind of backstories and kind of how things have kind of come to be as they are. And it's incredible how you managed to keep going, but clearly you've got some pretty strong motivators there. So good for you, and good luck in the training and good luck in the race next year. We'll definitely be watching. And thanks very much for joining us on this.
Thanks, Jim.